A significant ruling. I'm pretty surprised by the investor reaction, which is meh, but perhaps there's some, overhang that's gone.
Well, it's significant, and perhaps the reaction isn't so, bad right now, because this is only the compensatory damages. So there were $3 million for compensatory damages. That's for pain and suffering, to reimburse a person for what they went through. But the jury decided that there could be punitive damages. So there's going to be another proceeding to determine punitive damages, and that's where the big money comes in a lot of these cases, where they want to punish the company. So things might change if there's a big punitive damages award.
So when we talk punitive, like how much are we talking? And then my understanding, I was listening to you, I think on with the team over at Balance of Power, that this is the first of many cases to come to trial against these companies.
Right. There's another case, I believe trial is scheduled for July in Los Angeles, but there are thousands, I think 3,000 of these cases. There's also a case by state attorneys general against these companies. So what's really important is they call this a bellwether trial. So it's the first one to go to trial. So that does make this verdict very important, because down the road, that might mean that Meta might be more pliable as far as settlements. But also, I think that it's hard to read into just the one verdict. Like, people are comparing it to the tobacco cases. Well, the tobacco cases, it took a while before a pattern was established. So here, I think you have to go through more than one trial, a couple of trials, before you see which way the juries are coming back. Also, I was surprised by the verdict, because there was a lot of evidence that this young woman had a lot of other mental health struggles, that she had problems at home, she had a learning disability, she had bullying problems, I believe, in school. So there was evidence that there were other influences on her, not just Meta. And so another thing that strikes me as a parent is that, she was on these social media platforms like 16 hours a day or whatever. And, where are her parents at that point? I don't think, I don't know what would happen if I had let my daughter be on, all those different hours,
You raise a lot of good points, June, and I'm wondering from a compensation standpoint, is there a chance, not just from the perspective of, punitive versus compensatory. Compensatory, thank you. But does it create some sort of precedent, that moving forward, this is how, and not necessarily a legal precedent, but this is how people are thinking about this technology.
Well, this is how people are thinking about this technology. And perhaps when they choose the next jury, they'll try to eliminate people who are thinking this way about this technology. But it is a trend. There are states that are passing laws. Yeah. As I said, the
countries that are ahead of this compared to the United States.
Right. So, but I don't know about pushing the blame on, one company, but, the problem was that in this trial, there were a lot of internal documents that were showed to the jury that, revealed a sort of ignorance on Meta's part, or on the executives at Meta, about what this was doing, or we don't care about it. So I think that those internal documents probably played a big part in the way the jury came back. But remember, they were out for 9 days, 40 hours. So they didn't come to this conclusion right away. It wasn't like, oh wait, here we saw what happened, we heard it, and we're ready to rain down on Meta and Google.
Just real cookie. I'm a little hungry, perhaps. June, just real quickly, 30 seconds here. Can these two companies appeal, or is there any pushback?
They'll wait until they get the punitive damages verdict in, and then they're already saying they're going to appeal. There's no doubt that there'll be appeals in this case.
Okay.